This episode is sponsored by football's ultimate survival game. Let's see who's the final one standing.
AFTV Transfer Daily, the show that keeps you up to date with players will be linked with a transfer move to Arsenal.
Welcome along to AFTV Transfer Daily, the show that keeps you up to date with players and be linked with a summer transfer move to Arsenal. You can hear my voice a little bit croaky. I'll tell you what, been suffering with a bit of a cold for about the last 3 days, but that will not deter me from being at the game tonight, which is taking place here at the Kitech Stadium. This stadium, by the way, absolutely beautiful stadium. Got a retractable roof. Really nice stadium. I was inside there last night because Arsenal had an open training session. 44,000 fans in there for that training session. I must admit, it didn't look there was a lot of fans. It's a 50,000 seater. I felt it was a little bit less than that, but the official figure was 44,000. I was reliably informed that when Liverpool had their training session here the other day, they had, because they played AC Milan here, they had 27,000. And I was at the Spurs one the previous night, didn't stick around for it. They had about 9,000 fans. So that just goes to show you the level of support that's over here in Hong Kong for Arsenal. Absolutely insane. Everywhere you go, it's red and white shirts, and they're absolutely buzzing for the game, buzzing for Victor Gyökeres, and every one of them, I keep saying it, it's almost universal. Robbie, Mr. Robbie, Eze, is Eze coming? I tell you, that's what last week when I was in Singapore, all the time it was, is Gyökeres coming? Now it's, is Eze coming? And we're all saying fingers crossed, hopefully he does come. Now I've got some news on Eze. Just before I get into that, just got to remind everybody about final one standing, the game that we're playing. We've teamed up with William Hill. Don't forget, if you want to play the game, all you've got to do is scan the QR code or click the link in the description. £500,000 up for grabs, right? Now remember how to play it. You pick one team, right, each week. If your team wins, you go into the next round. Simple as that, and then you get to choose again. You won't be able to choose that same team, but you get to choose again, right? If your team draws or loses, you are out. So you have to pick very, very sensibly.
You lot are always in the comments saying that we don't know ball. Well, now it's your chance to prove it. Could you predict the Premier League if we offered you £500,000 to do it? We've partnered with William Hill to bring you final one standing. The rules are simple. Pick a Premier League team every week. Win, you stay in. Lose or draw, you're out. But you can only pick each team once. It's free to play, and there's £500,000 up for grabs. That's right, £500,000. Perfect. You need to have a William Hill app to play, so scan the QR code on the screen or hit the link in the description below to get involved. 18 plus, UK only. Please gamble responsibly. Terms and conditions apply, and full terms are in the link below. Let's see who's the final one standing.
Final one standing. You want more details, click the link in the description. Eberechi Eze. That's what the big talk is all about. I said yesterday and was telling you all that, Oliver Glasner looks like he's very unhappy at the moment. They haven't really bought any signings in of as much. They've got risks of losing players, as well as Eze, Mark Gay. He's also being linked heavily with moves to Liverpool, to Newcastle. He doesn't seem a happy person at the moment. And Eze is the player that's under threat from Arsenal. Now, we know that there's this release clause of £68 million, but a really interesting development is this release clause has a time attached to it. It has to be activated before 2 weeks before the end of the transfer window. If Arsenal are activated by then, the clause then is no longer in effect, and that means that Palace could then easily raise the price up, say, listen, we want 100 million. Or even if, say, Arsenal came in with 68 million, they wouldn't have to do it. They wouldn't have to, You know, by the way, so hot here, man. The humidity is crazy. They wouldn't have to do it because that release clause no longer existed. So Arsenal got a time limit on this. 2 weeks in effect to get this deal done if they're to use the release clause, or after that, they could be in threat of having no chance of getting Eze this transfer window. Remember, I remember listening to the owner of Crystal Palace last season, where he said it was a miracle that they were able to hang on to Eze, because at one time he thought he was going to lose Eze and Elise. They did lose Elise. But will Arsenal do this? Will they activate this release clause and get this deal done? The other thing is as well about this release clause is that it's said that Palace, whichever rumours you're listening to, they want between 35 million or 30 million up front for them to do this deal. Then they can do the rest in instalments. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this. But remember, as I said, has to be done 2 weeks before deadline day. Otherwise, that release clause will no longer be in effect. Lots of reports around that, you know, Arsenal may have to sell players to make this happen. Now, of course, I spoke about yesterday, Trossard being linked with Borussia Dortmund. He could be a player that could go to help to fund this move. The other player that's been heavily linked today with a move away is Oleksandr Zinchenko. Zinchenko, according to the journalist Ben Jacobs, has been linked with a move away. Fulham very, very interested in signing him. Arsenal would be open to letting Zinchenko go. Of course, they've got Mars Lewis-Skelly. They've got Calafiori, although Calafiori with the injuries, he wasn't in the training session last night. But they would be open to letting him leave for around about £15 million. Now, we know that Fulham already hold an interest in Reiss Nelson, who's another player who was actually at training last night. Another player that could be on the move, but they want Zinchenko as well. Could both of these players move to Fulham? I think the problem with Zinchenko is going to be his wages. He's on very high wages, but Arsenal definitely looking to move him on. So one to keep an eye on there, Reiss Nelson and Zinchenko, two possibilities of players that could end up at Fulham before the end of this transfer window. And what about Max Dowman? I'll tell you what, this guy, if it wasn't for the mega signing of Victor Gyökeres, this guy could almost be stealing the show. Before we came here, we heard a lot about this kid and how good he was, and we've seen all the video clips and with him online and, you know, playing for the under 18s and under 21s. Well, we've got to see him in the flesh, playing in the big, you know, with the big boys. We saw what he did the other day in that match against Newcastle, up against Joe Linton, a really physical player, how he was twisting him up left, right and centre. He was in training last night. I actually got to say hello to him. Seems like a really nice kid. According to the publication Victories over there in Spain, they claim that Real Madrid are keeping tabs on him. Now, listen, a player of his age, 15 years of age, of his quality, every team is going to be keeping tabs on him. So that's the first thing I want to say before everyone starts getting worried. But this is going to be a conundrum for Arsenal going forward because he's unbelievably talented. You don't want to rush him because he's still only 15 years of age. I think he will get some first team football this season for Arsenal, but you don't want to rush him. And then he's got a lot of players in front of him. They can't sign him yet to a long-term contract because of his age. He's only can be signed on a scholarship deal. So Arsenal are going to constantly come under threat of losing him. A bit like what's been happening with Ethan Nwaneri, until they can tie him down to a long-term contract, and that is not going to be for a few years. So they're going to have to work out a way of giving him game time and keeping him happy without overdoing him and overplaying him, and, you know, and also, you know, keeping, what should I describe it as? Keeping the wolves away of teams like your Real Madrid's, Barcelona's, Man City's. All these teams are going to be interested. So it's going to be interesting to see how they manage the situation with Max Dowman. So those are the rumours today. As I said, we stood outside the stadium here The game takes place today, mate. Even by the time you've watched the video, we might have already have had it. It's the North London derby. Arsenal taking on Tottenham here in Hong Kong, in the Kai Tak Stadium. I'll tell you what, they're going to have water breaks. You can see by the way I'm sweating here, even though the sun isn't blazing out, the humidity over here is absolutely crazy, right? So how many water breaks are going to have? How many players are going to be able, I mean, listen, no player's going to be able to do the full 90 in this weather. Absolutely no chance. We're looking forward to the game. Hopefully we get a win, and I'll see you tomorrow for more Transfer Daily.